Hey class, Meg Adams here. We meet again. Um, Today we're discussing areas of competent communication, what we may excel at and what we may not excel so well at. For me, I believe I tend to excel at the skill of empathy. I tend to think and feel as others do, as a caretaker by trade, as a mom, as an animal activist. I am very other oriented. It's part of my nature, it's ingrained in who I am, which actually means that sometimes I forget to take care of myself. Um, a good example of this would be Saturday morning. I was with a home health care client, and her primary caregiver had just left them the day before. She'd been with them for 5 months, and she left without saying goodbye. And my client adored this girl. And we were doing our range of motion stretches, and she started crying, and I had to stop. I mean, it was kind of out of the blue. She just started crying, and I stopped doing the stretches with her, put my hand on her shoulder, got her a Kleenex. I got down on her level and held her hand, and I just listened to her. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to say anything to fix what had happened. So I just tried to be there for her and support her with kindness and nurturing and understanding without trying to bring me into the situation. It's just trying to focus on how she felt and how I could in any way make her feel better. I am not so great, I believe, in the area of competent communication, which is cognitive complexity. I have to preface this. I think I'm great at cognitive complexity when it doesn't involve emotion. But when it's ideological things, I think my emotion gets in there, and I am terrible about it. But this is the ability to understand a given situation in a multitude of ways, like the cartoon where the one guy is standing at one end of the 6 or the 9 and the other guy is standing at the other end of the 6 or the 9, and they're both right. Is it a 6? Is it a 9? They're both right. Sometimes I guess I just need to pivot around to see what that other point of view is, but sometimes the effort to do that, especially in an ideological situation, it seems so pointless to me that I feel like it's a waste of time, so I don't do it. A specific example would be my grandma. As I mentioned before, I was raised Catholic. My grandma is like staunch Roman Catholic, does not understand why my husband and I are not practicing, why our daughter's not baptized, yada yada. Turns out my husband is Norse pagan, and I'm pretty secular. Our wedding was secular, and I will get these snide little things from her, like things in the mail, Bible verses. I caught an email she sent to my mom about how to underhandedly baptize my child without my knowledge. And then we'll have discussions about it, and it gets heated. Specifically about my daughter's birth or baptism, that would be one where I'm like, this is my kid, okay? And then it gets heated. But ironically, on page 29 of the book, there's this exercise you could do, which they say is under empathy. You can write a letter to yourself as if you are representing your family member, the person that you're having the struggle with. And I thought about it, if I had written a letter to myself as if I were my grandma, probably some of the really nice things she would say and the hurt things she would say about, the world being different from when she grew up and how things are not going the way she probably hoped. And if I stood back around on that side of the 9 or the 6, I can kind of get a better idea of where she's coming from instead of going from, 6 to midnight with my emotions. When we're talking about it, they say don't talk about politics and religion when you're with your family. Well, sometimes it involves your kid. It's inevitable. I could try to improve my skills of being a competent communicator by being less reactive, less emotional, and perhaps taking an active step towards understanding others' point of view, like that letter thing in the book, which I think could also apply to competent communication for cognitive complexity as well. 5:05, 5:06 seconds. You gotta dock me some points now, Professor Maynard. It's over. Bye, guys.